Yes, here it goes. So I'm going to talk today about my second biggest study, that is speech with adults, and let you know a little bit about what we are doing here in Brazil. So I'm a speech language pathologist. I'm a master in clinical approach and doctor in science, but I also work with myofunctional therapy, and I am a language pathology specialist. I'm an author of an intervention program for speech, and a professor of post-graduation courses in Brazil and also in Portugal. And there is something important in speech therapy, that is the articulation of the speech. So we work, speech pathologists, with it because it's a fundamental importance in communication. And we can deal with problems in different ages. So we treat to childhood, to the elderly ones, to maintain their possibility to communicate with each other. In adults, we can treat two different kinds of population. The healthy one, so we just improve what they have, and the pathological ones. So if they have a disease, if they have a damage, we can also get better results with stimulation. And speech is in the middle of a lot of different parts of speech pathology, different areas. So we can help this population with speech problems, with new possibilities in different domains. The speech itself, it's not a specialty in Brazil. So we must try to take the best from different areas. We have specialization in language, in neurofunctional speech therapy, in orofacial myology, in voice, and all of them together brings us the main work with speech. So I'm a specialist in orofacial myology, but in language, I made my doctorate, my PhD studies. So here in Brazil, there is a specific dividing of our specialties. We have both speech pathology and audiology in our graduation. So after graduation, you can choose if you want to work with both of them, or if you want to analyze and to get your road into just one of them. So I choose language and orofacial myology. But to face the speech field, you must know a little bit more. So I started to study from the neurological point of view. And from this neurological point of view, speech is a motor representation of language. We have the coordination of three neurological processes: organization in concepts, formulation, and symbolic expression that comes from the language specialty, programming the motor act involved in speech production that comes from the neurologic area, and motor speech production itself that comes from orofacial myology. So this speech motor control that is defined by a specific doctor, I will tell a little bit about her. It's about planning, preparing movements, and execute plans for muscles contraction and displacement of structures, speech articulation. So that was the main of my PhD. In my PhD, I tried to make an intervention program for speech in control, in motor control. So we don't have a lot of interventions material here in Brazil, even in the world. So I made an intervention program with number of sections determinate. So I systematic the input, and I include the motor aspect to the phonological stimulation. It means I took this idea of motor control from somewhere. And my inspiration is Dr. Nina Drunkens. Dr. Nina Drunkens, it's a research scientist that works with aphasia, pathology that takes more in adults. And she's from California, and she started to work with children that had a specific speech program, and she tried to understand in the brain what was happening. So she wants to review about language disorders in the brain and what we can get from this. So her first studies is dated about 2004. So in 2004, Dr. Drunkens was the first research that described a new area, a new anatomic area in the brain that was involved in speech production. So this area had her name. It's called Drunkens area, and it's in the insula above the auditory part of the brain, the cortex, the auditory cortex. So this Drunkens area is related to the programming of speech, muscles, and the production of sounds in the correct order and the correct time. What Dr. Drunkens did was to show us that there is a big connection between auditory system and the motor system. They work together to give us a good pronunciation, a good articulation. So it was a hypothesis before, but now we know that this is true. So from the speech pathology perspective, we can say that the phonological acquisition is going together with the development of the speech motor control. They work together. And in Brazil, in the world, there was no program to stimulate speech motor control. Only programs to stimulate phonological acquisitions. So my target was to determine a specific input to stimulate the drunk areas, to optimize this area. So the new studies point that we have these three neurological processes involved in speech production. And why I'm saying that? Because this specific study, it's about adults. And I will try to show you how my team, improve their speech. So we used to work with language, so improve the phonology system, also stimulate the motor control of speech, and at the end, we work with tongue, mouth, and vocal movements. Well, someone did that. Who did that? It wasn't me. Someone did that. Sorry, I will take again, okay? Please turn off your microphones, please, and don't move the screen, please, so I can finish. Turn off the microphone, please. Turn off. Arlette, you are open.
Oh, hi.
So I work with this big process to help them to improve their speech. Okay? Oh, sorry. Here. My first findings at the PhD studies was that motor speech control is possible to be stimulated. So we had first Dr. Nina Drunkens that described the area. So other study says, oh, this area could be stimulated. So I have the alternative and the possibility to make a plan to stimulate this area. And two another important things that I told you before. There is a network between motor and phonologic aspects. One depends to other. So that's why I'm going to stimulate both of them. And sometimes the linguistic disorganization in phonological disorder can be influenced by motor disability or by the praxis of motor phonemes. And it seems to target us that also phonologic problems has motor problems because they are all connected. So in adults, what we do for speech, there is a guidelines for this therapy. And there are three important targets. The first one, we must work in stimulation of speech motor control, what I'm talking about. So muscle physiology and ability. We want adults to get more dexterity. It means more ability to use the movements to speak better, to have a better speech. Second point is, in guidelines for therapy in adults, thematic progression. With language possibilities, we help them to make a better speech. And expressiveness. We'll talk more about this later because my target is the motor control, but expressiveness, it's also very important. So the objective of this study that I want to show you is to stimulate the nonverbal praxis of lips and tongue in adults to promote excellence in articulatory patterns. So this study was approval from ethics committees in University of São Paulo. We selected 8 individuals, male, between 32 years to 38, no respiratory pathologies. They all assigned the consentment, and they all work with professional use of the voice. So the target here was to improve the speech itself. And they work with communication. They were all journalists. So they had 60 days of treatment. So they did only stimulation of motor program control, but before it, they did some prescribed intervention for expressiveness. And we had a post-reevaluation. I will not read it all, okay? Just for you to understand that we have 2 moments to work with them. The first moment, the first 60 days, all these 8 men had training for improve the speech. We followed up the guidelines for speech and voice to adults. So they have training of progress, thematic progress, expressiveness, partners, and also they try to use the new abilities on field because they all worked on television. So they have to do reports on TV, video presentations, so we can analyze if what we were telling them will make better results, will bring better results. So after the 60 days, they were reevaluated, and we start the motor control intervention. So they were they were instructed to do a sequence of lips and tongue for 60 consecutive days for 5 minutes, 3 repetitions a day, plus phonological intervention. And we had a weekly speech therapy sessions to help them with this exercise. And again, work on field. They must use this new ability in their jobs. And at the end of these 60 days, we again had assessment of speech. So we made orofacial praxis tests to evaluate the results, and also speech fluency. That was very important for us. So, each session had the second one, phonological stimulation versus plus stimulations of no verbal praxis. So the exercise sequences were reported by expert authors based on weight-weak motor learning, and also a minimum of 15 seconds of stimulation and a max of 3 minutes of stimulation. Perform weekly session with the program and extra exercise at home, like I told you before. Stimulation of nonverbal praxis of lips and tongue means sequence of tongue and lips exercises followed by an oral emission. So specialized doctors showed me how, the literature showed me how exercise put in these sequences, and the time was directed by another authors. And why this kind of motor learning helps people to get better in speech? Because we are talking about block practice. Block practice. Block practice is a kind of motor learning where you try to introduce the parts of some action to facilitate their understanding. So the practice should be thought and elaborated in order to facilitate the accomplishment of a certain variety of movements, allowing the subject to develop a repertoire of movements that will facilitate the accomplishment of more complex skill. So that's the reason for nonverbal praxis stimulating. We use block practice, facilitating more complex skill achievement. So the results were very satisfied, and important numbers for us. So 7 subjects showed improvement in the test of oral praxis, with score increased by more than 10 points, which filtered greater coordination of muscle involvement. And also, we had the fluence, the speech fluence analyzed. The speech was marked by increasing speed in reading. That also means speech coordination, articulatory more precise, and client's perception. So we go to, in the first oral praxis score, 28 to 240, and speed in reading, 112 words per, another one, again, someone is doing that, not me. Sorry again. Let's try again. Okay, and 112 words per minute to 109 words per minute. That it's the average of normal speakers, okay? And also we had good results in the praxis proofs. So they started to do more movements after only request, so we don't have to imitate the movement, so they can do that. And it was also something interesting for us in the numbers. In Brazil, we have already a lot of research that starts to show our results, and also another domains that can be used to help professional voicers. So this is one of them: vocal and body expressiveness to speak well in telejournalism. So training results that they point here in this study a lot of interesting ways of work. And this one is a very special one from a colleague from my team. That is a mapping of speech-language pathology praxis pathway and verbal expressivity in the work of communication competence. So this is very new, and this includes the motor control trainment. And the last one, it's the expressiveness of voice professionals, a construction of a process of speech language pathology assessment script. So now we start to collect the data in an equal way. So everybody will judge from the same point of view to compare our results and to give better strategies to work, okay? Also, my program with motor control with children is published. It's a book called Practical Productive Intervention Program for Individuals with Phonological Disorder. And there are theoretical chapters at the book. Oh my God, someone again. I'm almost finished, okay? Someone wants to talk, I guess. And detailed program and application instructions. Also, my PhD program is available on the internet, on Google, with the same name, with my last name, Giannecchini. So the conclusion of the studies are: the stimulation may have contributed to the pattern, improves articulation of speech of these adult subjects. The worker can open a possibility of more comprehensive work with adults speakers, where the coordination of orofacial structures can enable the best possible muscular performance. And these studies suggest that the exercise of praxis can minimize nonverbal speech disorders. Thank you very much for your attention. And I'm here if you have some questions. You can write in the